Hello, hello. After a rather long wait time, I'm finally doing the video that was requested via Patreon about talking about commissions and kind of how to get started. But first, this video will probably only have line art being done in the background because I honestly just did not want to continue recording this after I finished the line art stage. I was tired and I kind of didn't want to have to I don't want to have the added anxiety, I suppose. Well, not anxiety, but the added nervousness of trying to perform while recording, because I often do get a little bit antsy when recording, and I didn't want to have to edit all the pauses in between my coloring stages. So anyway, if you're an artist usually online at some point or another, you will probably feel the desire to start doing commission work. And for those who maybe are very new to the idea, commission work is where you price out your art at different stages like sketches and line art and flat colors or whatever, and then you try and sell it to a populace who might be interested in it. And for some people, it's very, very difficult to start off, and that was kind of what people were expecting me to talk about in this video because I've been doing commissions for approximately 5 years now, give or take, basically ever since I started to draw more confidently in my work. And I feel that while I'm by no means a big name artist, that I do have some decent understanding about how to actually get started in commission work, which is really the hardest step. So, beginning off is the most important part, I feel, and that is pricing your artwork. A lot of people struggle with this, and they often they don't know where to begin. And a lot of people often make the mistake of going towards their best friends or family members and asking them for price suggestions. And while in some cases this can work, it's not always the case because a lot of the times they might have a predisposition bias towards you and want to overprice. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way because it's very kind that they want that, but when you're first starting off, chances are overpricing is not actually the best idea. And in fact, if you are brand new and you do not have a prerequisite fan base, your best bet is to underprice yourself, even if it's by a couple of dollars. Because that's basically how I started. Was I wanted to sell things for, let's say, the price I would have gone for preferably would have been $6 for a rough sketch headshot. I decided to go for $4 just to get myself started and to really lure people's interest in because a lot of the times I find that people who buy at that price anyway will probably give you they'll give you a tip afterwards. So what you should usually do is look at the minimum wage of your location and kind of base it off on that. Um, if your minimum wage, for example, here it's $10.25 Canadian. So I would have approximately gone for that per hour that I would spend on the drawing. But you might be thinking, okay, well, how do I pay them or charge them hourly when I don't know how long it's going to actually take me specifically to do this picture? Well, that's where it comes down to you actually having to know how long it'll take you to approximately do something for the pricing. If you know it takes you about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do a colored headshot, you should always have a flat price of about $20 for that because it takes you about 2 hours, and we're considering that half an hour as maybe free for now because you're starting off. And I'm not saying underprice yourself like, oh, I'm brand new, I want to start at $10 and go from there. It should never be that low because actually some people get deterred by extremely low prices. So it's always good to lowball yourself, but not to like extreme degrees. Um, the next thing you should really consider is making a nice layout for your commissions and what you're really ready to accept. Because a lot of people are not ready to accept like full body background, the whole shebang their first try. I honestly suggest keeping the options down to 2 to 3 different things that you're comfortable starting with and comfortable doing other people's characters in at the time, because if you open up and you get like, let's say your first commission is like 3 people full body in like World of Warcraft style armor, you might immediately get overwhelmed and burned out and have a really difficult time continuing with the commission. So your best bet is starting with maybe various tiers of sketches, like headshot, half body, full body, offering color or no color, and maybe some line art or something you feel at least comfortable in to add on as like an alternate choice, and seeing how that goes. Then from there, you're going to want to make a nice layout for your commissions. If you have a messy, non-eye-catching or eye-burner, rather, where you're using very saturated colors, layout, you're more likely going to get like support, or rather visibility, because people will see that and find it very visually appealing and want to share your artwork. Because I'll scroll past people that just post very bland and unattractive looking commission sheets. And if you're somebody who's concerned that, well, I don't know how to make these, or I don't know how to make these look good, there's a lot of people online that actually do very cheap, like, layout commissions for like $5 or $6, where they'll ask you for a couple references and the prices, and they'll actually lay it out for you. So if you don't feel comfortable actually doing a layout for yourself, you can do that, or even just start simple and just do like the generic border around the picture and then the prices that you're asking for, and then there you go. That's your commission sheet. Just make sure it's never any too saturated colors or colors too similar to the actual drawings you're using as references yourself. Or themselves. The next thing I would recommend is starting off on as many platforms as you can. So if you're a furry, or rather a furry artist, should I say, post yourself on Affinity forums, post yourself on DeviantArt, post yourself on Tumblr. I have personally only ever really found success through Tumblr because it has, maybe in my opinion, the best method of getting attention. Because, I mean, if you already have a couple friends or followers, they'll more than likely reblog it, and then it reblogs again and again and again. And you're more likely to get a lot of commissions that way than through just making a journal on websites where the algorithm for getting new people looking at it, or people to look at it in general, is not top tier like on DeviantArt. You should also always have a set of rules and be very clear on what you are not willing to do and what you are willing to do. And always be very well aware that you may have some underage people commissioning you, and be prepared to be able to tell them no. And I know this sounds a little weird about talking about underage commissioners like that, because I was one of those people that was underage commissioning, but I was not one of those people who would ever have commissioned somebody something suggestive. But these days, a lot more young people are getting a little bold in commissioning certain things, and it can be somewhat dangerous depending on what it is they are commissioning, because you don't want like a 16 or 17-year-old commissioning you a very lewd picture or overly sexualized one that borders on not safe for work. So you should always be very, very careful about that, and be prepared to tell them and really any client no, because you should never have to accept something that is beyond your comfort range. You should always be aware of what your comfort range is and what you feel comfortable drawing and doing for other people, because that way it'll be a lot more fun and smooth a process for you. Limit yourself to how many you will take for your first time. So don't open them up and take like 15 commissions on, because you will just burn yourself out and probably never want to return to doing commissions again. Limit yourself to about 3 or 4 or whatever you really think you can handle, but please try not to go over 5, because that's often a mistake I find that I make and other new commissioners make, where they realize they're getting actually that attention that they're hoping for, and then they kind of, oh, well, I'm getting a lot of people wanting to pay for stuff, so I'll just take as many as I possibly can. Because if you're anything like me and you keep a list of things, of commissions that you owe, when that list gets over a certain amount, it becomes extremely daunting and very overwhelming. So I would suggest keeping it 3 or 4 for your first time, and working through those before actually accepting any more. Like, don't work through one and then accept another one, because it can be a never-ending stream at that point, and you may never feel that you're actually going anywhere. So just take your time, take a few at a time, finish them, put them out, and keep repeating that process until you're comfortable. That's another thing you should do, is keep a commissioner's list, make a Word Excel sheet on documents, and set it up for commissioning with names, prices, whether they've paid or not, and keeping their email. It is vital that you have your commissioner's email. You have to keep it with you somewhere safe where you will not forget it. This will be your primary source of contact for your commissioner, because not many of them will share their Discord or their Skype or something like that with you. And in fact, especially if you're a younger commissioner, I would not offer your Discord or your Skype, because this can go south very quickly, and you should be always protective of yourself. This isn't to say that every commissioner you will get is a creep or out to get you or anything like that. It's just safer than being sorry. So using emails is very important, so you should be prepared to share your email with people and have them share theirs with you. And you have to keep it on hand. Of course, if you have like a repeating commissioner, you can probably consider adding them on Discord or something, but I wouldn't suggest that for your first lab. And really, when it comes down to commissions, that's kind of the baseline. Just vlog yourself a lot, try and get yourself exposed, and I would honestly advise drawing a lot of fan art first, especially if you're on the Tumblr algorithm, and tagging it and praying that it gets a little bit of lift off and going from there, really, because once you have a few fans and stuff under the fandom, like the fandom sect, you'll probably get a few commissions. And I know that sounds shitty because, well, being popular on OCs would be really fucking cool, but unfortunately that's not what somebody is usually looking for. You will not find people as readily searching the OC tag as they're searching, like, Mercy from Overwatch. So draw things that you like from fandoms to get a little bit of publicity first if you are struggling with the commissions and struggling to get any. And then those people who see that you've drawn Mercy 2 or 3 times, for example, might go to your blog and see that you have commissions, and yes, they may commission you to draw Mercy or to draw Reaper or something they've seen you draw before, but that's step 1. And to begin with commissions, there's always step 1 and the earliest stages, and the earliest stages are not always the funnest. Because when I begun, the only things I ever got commissioned were World of Warcraft, Blood Elves, because that's what people saw me draw and they liked it. And if you want to get far, you can't be picky, so just accept those commissions and kind of go with it. They're gonna probably be a lot of fandom-based ones to begin with, but it's all worth it in the end, because you do eventually start getting those really fascinating OCs, those cool designs and stuff, and you do start getting out there and people getting those kind of commissions for you. So basically, when you're starting with commissions, don't undercharge yourself severely, but do maybe consider dropping the dollar value a couple dollars, and keeping in mind that most people will tip you that to make up the money that you would technically be losing. So a lot of people are actually quite kind with their tipping. Be willing and prepared to say no. Keep a list of your commissioners and keep their emails close because you will need them. Set up PayPal and primarily use PayPal, as I have heard some friggin' horror stories about banking. Oh, and to do with PayPal, please, please, please remember to use invoices and learn how to set up invoices. It's very, very simple, and it can protect you from a lot of PayPal-related problems in the long run. And that's kinda it. Just make sure to not overwhelm yourself and do things that are within your range, and be very, very, very attentive to who is commissioning you, because it can be very easy to have somebody underage commissioning sexual things from you, especially if you are overaged. Or rather, if you're like 18 plus. So never ever, like, just please be careful about that, because that can cause a lot of issues, and I have heard stories of people almost getting fired when they've drawn art for 16 and 17-year-olds without knowing, and then, you know, the wind gets to their parents or whatever, and they get in trouble. So be careful, take care of yourself, and just try and have fun. Don't overwhelm yourself, and that's really it. Start small and slowly build yourself up, and it will come. I know it sounds like it might not, especially if you're going through months and months and months without commissions, but they will come. It does take a long time. Some people seem to blow up overnight, and it seems really unfair, but some people take months and months and years, and I was one of those people. But I promise that these commissions will come, and it'll be easier as time goes on. Just be very, very vigilant about it. And that's kind of all I have to say. This is really my first video trying to do something different like this, but I do hope for those who are kind of interested that this helps you in some way. And that's really it. Thank you for watching.